three strikers came through the door at Manchester United last summer for around £200 million combined. Nobody had ever seen anything like what happened next. By the end of the season, all three had scored double digits in their very first year at the club. That's Benjamin Šeško, Bryan Mbeumo, and Matheus Cunha. And get this, it's the first time in Premier League history that three new signings from the same club have each hit 10-plus goals in their debut season. Not Man City's spending sprees. Not Chelsea's. Nobody had pulled this off before. Šeško finished with 11, Mbeumo matched him with 11, and Cunha chipped in 10. That's 32 goals combined from three guys who'd never played a Premier League minute for United before last August. United ended up with the third highest goal tally in the entire league, behind only Manchester City and Arsenal. And that's before you even count Bruno Fernandes, who broke the all-time Premier League assist record, sitting right behind them. So here's the real question for this season. Last year already proved this attack works. The question now is, does it get even scarier in year two? Especially with Marcus Rashford heading back into the mix after a season at Barcelona that turned him into one of the best forwards in Spain. Okay, but why does 32 goals from three new guys actually matter? Because it replaced one of the most criticised front lines in the league. The year before, it was Rasmus Højlund, Alejandro Garnacho, and an exiled Rashford up top. And that trio barely scored a fraction of what this new front three managed. United finished miles outside the European spots. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a totally different identity. United went from scraping goals out of isolated moments of brilliance to generating volume from three completely different types of forward, all clicking in the same season. And they did that while changing managers mid-season too, going from Ruben Amorim to Michael Carrick in January, and still finished third, right back in the Champions League places. Let's start with Šeško, because his season is really two different stories. At 6'5", the Slovenian arrived from RB Leipzig for around £66 million with obvious physical tools, a striker built to bully centre-backs in the air and stretch defences with his running. But the first half of the season was rough. Pundits were calling him awkward, questioning whether he'd ever look like a genuinely elite finisher. Then Carrick took over in January, and something clicked. Šeško went on an incredible run, scoring in 9 of his final 16 appearances, and finished the season as United's joint top scorer with 11 Premier League goals. That late turnaround matters, because this wasn't a finished product delivering from day one. It was raw power and movement slowly learning where and when to attack space. If that improvement keeps going into a full second season, without needing time to adjust, defenders across the league are in real trouble. Mbeumo's story is almost the opposite. Brentford fans had been shouting about him for years while most of the league ignored a guy stuck at a mid-table club. United paid a fee that could rise past 70 million, and he looked like the most ready-made of the three signings straight away. 11 goals, and he led United's own goal charts for long stretches of the campaign. But his form cooled off hard in the second half. He went 11 games without scoring at one point, and Carrick started rotating him with Amad Diallo on the right. Still, the quality that made him so good at Brentford, the work rate, the smart runs into the right half spaces, the composure once he's in the box, never really went away. A full pre-season under a settled manager should only sharpen that. Then there's Cunha, who does his best work outside the box as much as inside it. 10 goals in the league tells you the end product was there, but the numbers actually undersell how often he's the one dropping deep, dragging defenders out of position, and creating the space that lets Šeško and Mbeumo do their jobs closer to goal. At around £62 million from Wolves, where he'd already built a reputation as one of the most gifted forwards outside the traditional Big Six, he might be the most tactically flexible of the three. He can play off either shoulder, drift into midfield, or drop into a false nine role completely, which gives Carrick a real chess piece to reshape the attack depending on who they're playing. Now bring Rashford back into the picture, because his return makes things both more complicated and more dangerous. He had a genuine career revival on loan at Barcelona, somewhere around 15 goals and 13 assists across all competitions, and he even picked up a La Liga title with Hansi Flick's side. There were points during that season where Barcelona genuinely looked like they wanted to keep him for good. But Barcelona didn't activate their €30 million buy option once their spending priorities shifted towards signing Anthony Gordon from Newcastle instead, and their finances made a straightforward permanent deal harder to justify. United, meanwhile, have made clear they're not interested in sending him out on another loan. So like it or not, he's back in a United shirt this pre-season. What makes him such a useful piece to have back is the profile. He's genuinely two-footed, comfortable finishing with either foot, which is rarer than people think even at the top level, and just as comfortable cutting in from the right as playing his more natural spot on the left. That kind of flexibility means Carrick isn't just adding a body to the squad. He's adding someone who can slot in wherever Šeško, Mbeumo or Kuna need a rest without forcing a total reshuffle of the front line. Amad Diallo's season went the other direction, and it's worth being honest about that instead of glossing over it. After a much stronger campaign the year before, he dropped down to just 2 goals and 3 assists in 30 appearances, mostly because the new arrivals pushed him into a rotational role on the right. It's the clearest example of just how much competition there suddenly is for minutes in this attack. A player who was a regular starter a year earlier is now genuinely fighting to get on the pitch. Still, he carried some big moments into a strong World Cup with Ivory Coast, which is a reminder of the ceiling that's still there. None of this works without Bruno Fernandes sitting behind it all. His numbers this season are honestly ridiculous. 21 assists, an all-time Premier League record, breaking the mark that Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne had shared for over 20 years. He led the entire league in expected assists by a wide margin. Nearly every one of Šeško's and Cunha's goals runs through him somewhere in the build-up. So as good as this front line looks on paper, it's genuinely hard to separate their output from his. And Carrick's fingerprints are all over how this attack actually functions. Where Amorim's rigid system often left the front players isolated, waiting around for service, Carrick's more fluid approach encourages faster combinations between Bruno, the wide forwards, and whoever's leading the line. That shift explains a lot of why Šeško came alive once Carrick took permanent charge in January. The service simply got more frequent and less predictable. And it's not like Carrick eased his way in either. He walked into a club sitting way down the table in January and turned it around almost immediately, stringing together wins over Manchester City, Arsenal and Fulham in his first few weeks alone. That's not a small sample size fluke. That's a manager who found something that clicked fast with basically the same group of players Amorim had. And here's the thing about Fernandes specifically. He missed a handful of Premier League matches this season and still walked away with the record anyway. He didn't even get his first assist of the campaign until mid-October. Then he basically doubled the output of every other creator in the league from that point on and picked up the Premier League Playmaker Award and the Player of the Season Award in the same year. When your best creator is playing catch-up for 2 months and still breaks a record that stood since Thierry Henry, that tells you how much room this attack still has to grow once everyone's fully synced up from day one of pre-season. Now, a longer season with Champions League nights added on top of a full Premier League and Cup schedule is exactly the kind of fixture list that exposes thin squads. United now have 5 or 6 real attacking options for the first time in years, which helps. But fatigue is a real factor too, with Šeško, Cunha, Amad and Rashford all playing deep into a World Cup summer. Put it all together, and this looks like one of the most talented, most balanced attacking units in the Premier League heading into next season. A striker learning to trust his own power. A wide forward whose all-around game finally has a big enough stage. A creator whose end product keeps getting better. A midfielder pulling every string behind them. And now a returning attacking weapon fresh off a title-winning season in Spain, added to a mix that already looked frightening without him. So does this front line actually push United into the title conversation next season? Or does squad rotation and a packed fixture list end up being the bigger story once the Champions League nights start piling up? Because last season, nobody outside Old Trafford saw this coming. This front line went from a punchline to a genuine problem for every defence in the league in one campaign, without a full pre-season together, and without a settled manager for half the year. Now they get both. Let me know your prediction down in the comments. How many goals do you think this front 5 combines for next season?